Hey friends, it's Carla back today, and I'm using some fun products from the Southern Ridge Trading Company shop, Chipboard and stencils, and I'm altering a Tim Holtz little clipboard, mini clipboard. So here you see the chipboard and wood pieces, that beautiful dragonfly, these neat stencils and those gears, and then I've got the mini clipboard that I'm going to do some fun mixed media stuff on. So I've got some rusty hinge distress oxide, and I'm going to take the multi-gear stencil, and I'm just using the sponge and I'm going over that onto the chipboard base. I think this clipboard is more of kind of a chipboard background. So I've got that all covered in that neat rusty hinge color. And then we have the fiber stencil, which I'm really loving. And we've got the walnut stain distress oxide ink, and it's very dark brown, and I'm just going over in certain spots. With this one, I don't want to cover the whole thing. So I'm just adding some dimension and details with this ink. Now I've got this sentiment stamp, and I have no idea who it's from. I've had it for probably over 10 years, and it came as a red rubber sheet, and I mounted it and just kind of looked through my stash the other day and found it. So I thought this was cool to use. And I used some archival ink on that, and that's one of Tim Holtz's new colors. And then I'm just going around the edge to add some shading with the brown again. And this just kind of adds some detail and gives it more of a vintage look. We've got some distress mica spray here, and I'm layering that stencil on back pretty much where I had it when I put the rusty hinge distress oxide on. And then we've got another color of the spray, and this mica spray is very cool, lots of shimmer in that, and it just brings out the background. Because the distress oxides react with any water, it's going to just add a really fun effect. Now I've got the Emboss It Dabber from Ranger, which I absolutely love, and sorry about that camera shaking. I'm just pressing onto the stencil in certain areas, and then I have this beautiful red embossing powder. It's from Wild Whisper, and it's made by Emerald Creek Embossing Powders, or Emerald Creek Craft Supplies, and this is beautiful. It is a predominantly reddish color, and then it has white flecks in it that the more you heat it, the more they spread. So very cool. And I just love the added detail that this gives around the edges of the project. It melts fairly quickly, and this clipboard stands up to any heat that you can add to it. So now I have the baked texture in the chunky rust that you can see here, and this is such a neat product. This is by Emerald Creek as well, and it was developed by Seth Apter. And when you melt it, it has just such a really cool rusty effect. It even has the little threads that would go through metal if it went rusty, and just really mimics the look of rust. So I wanted to add that onto the metal on the clipboard as well as the background. And once that's melted on there, it's not going anywhere. And I love the look of this with that rugged red from Wild Whisper. Now I'm adding a little bit of the brown archival ink just directly to certain edges that may have gotten darker if this was aged. I grabbed a Kaisercraft background stamp and some of the blue ink, and these are all inks that Tim Holtz came out with this year, and I just really love it. The archival ink stays on, so you can see that I kind of had my stamp upside down there, but that's okay. I turned it around, and I really actually like the effect that both right side up and upside down give to that background. Now I'm going to take this neat butterfly. It is a steampunk butterfly, so you can see that it has the gears inside the wings. We've got some patina oxide, and this is from Emerald Creek and created by Seth Apter, and has a beautiful patina color as well as some gold flecks that are inside. Melts very beautifully and just gives that metal effect that I wanted to go for this project. The Aegean Sea is a new baked velvet embossing powder from Emerald Creek and Seth Apter this year. And after I put it on, I realized it is more of a translucent. I did like the effect and that it actually made the dragonfly shiny, and it did give it a good base. So you can see here, you can see a little bit of color, but for the most part it is translucent. So in the center, I'm going over with this lapis lazuli, which is from Emerald Creek and Gwen Lafleur. This is a new one, and these are her boho blends. It's a blue with some pretty metallic shimmer. And then I decided I wanted a little bit more shimmer on that bottom part. And so the great thing about the embossing powders is that you can layer them, and you can see how well this chipboard stands up to layering on the embossing powder. It's not warping, it's taking the powder very well. And then, so the blue was from Wild Whisper. It's Island Slush. And then this is Pineapple Paradise from Wild Whispers again. And when I melt underneath, I'm just simply dropping on some of that embossing powder on the top. And then it all melts together. Now with these mini gears, I've used these on so many projects, and I still have some left over. I absolutely love them. They're wood, and they are laser cut, and Southern Ridge does such a great job cutting their products, and the detail is amazing. So I'm adding some hammered metal embossing powder to these neat gears, and then I've got the chunky rust. I'm just using some older Tim Holtz scissors just to hold those. You could use some tweezers or whatever you had on hand. After I melt the hammered metal, I'm just adding on a little bit of that rust powder. So you can see it just is so cool. Like, I just absolutely love how these turned out. And here I've got more of a wagon wheel type gear, and I'm just adding the chunky rust directly onto that. These are great for either painting, you can color them with markers, you can add embossing powders, you can paint them. There's just so many options for customizing them. Here's the charred gold Emerald Creek powder, and charred gold and hammered metal are two of my favorites. They are a chunky powder, so you do want to kind of heat them from the back a little bit. Make sure your heat gun's hot so that your powder doesn't fly off. And I find that, isn't that cool? I find that Emboss It Dabber really holds the powder on even better than the Versamark ink pad. So I'm using some Ranger Multi-Matte Medium. It is a matte glue, and it holds great. I love using this for sequins and any kind of chipboard and wood pieces, anything that's a little chunkier. It holds it on really well. These are some beautiful blue boho bits from Gwen Lafleur and Emerald Creek, and I'm just adding those on, and I've got some Emerald Creek Quarry gemstones that I'm gluing on. I'm using that matte medium again just to glue those in place so they don't come off. And then we've got some pyrite gemstones from Emerald Creek as well. So I'm just adding in a little bit of that matte medium in one of the holes of the Steampunk Dragonfly and adding these pretty gems in here. This was a really fun project, and because it is a clipboard, it can simply hang on the wall and be a lovely piece of art or a gift for someone. And I just love all the detail that those wood pieces and chipboard give to it. So I will link below where you can find the blog for Southern Ridge and see close-ups and get all the supply list, and you can stop over to the shop and see what you can find. Thanks so much for stopping by. I would love for you to like and subscribe.